This week on the vlog, if this, then that. I am heading to Milwaukee this afternoon to meet up with the family who got a head start on me this afternoon. We are going to Katie's high school reunion for Cedarburg High School. There is a service on the internet called If This, Then That. Here's how it works. You set up different services such as Google Sheets or your delivery tracking service or your email or even probably Facebook and Twitter. And so it works like this. You set up a recipe so that if I like something on Twitter, then it takes that URL and it sends it to a read it later type service so I can read it. Another one is, if a delivery is made to my house, send me a text message. If this happens, then that should happen as a result. If you drive through Milwaukee at about 4:45 on a Friday, then you will hit traffic and go so slow that you can film a vlog on Highway 43. At work, I'm using If This, Then That to populate an email service. If I load a series of email addresses into a Google Sheet, then it takes those contacts and it loads it into my contact management system. It's just one little step of automation to make life easier. And that's how automation works here in 2017. It's computer generated, it's automation. You say if one thing happens, then another thing should happen as a result. And it's meant to make our lives easier. If this happens, then this should be the result. So I'm sitting on the front porch here at Katie's dad's house in Cedarburg. It's one of my favorite places to sit and just enjoy the morning with a cup of coffee. As I said, this week we're talking about if this, then that. And I really encourage you to go look at 1 John 1 where it says, if we claim to have fellowship with God but walk in darkness, then we're deceiving ourselves and the truth is not in us. I've heard that a lot as a Lutheran growing up, and it's got new flavor now as I read all of 1 John 1 and 2. As 1 John continues in chapter 2, the author says, the reason I'm saying this is so that we would not sin. But, and here's another if statement, but if we do sin, we have Jesus. So there's this dance, and that's, there's this idea of, do not sin. But we all know if we've lived the Christian life long enough that sin is going to always be a part of our human nature. And so if we sin, we're going to have Jesus as an advocate. I think a lot of us in the Christian faith are asking ourselves if we measure up. Am I leading a good Christian life? Am I going to hear the words of Jesus say, well done, good and faithful servant? I know a lot of the good that I do, but I know a lot of the bad that I do, and I need times like 1 John 1 and 2 to really bring me back. And this week reminded me that 1 John 2 is one of my favorite portions of the Bible, because it says if we really know him, then we will keep his commands. And if we don't keep his commands, then the love of God really isn't in us. Now, I know, again, I've said over the last couple of weeks, we need to balance this out with grace, right? We need to understand we are commanded to keep his commands, but it also says, but when you sin, know that you have an advocate. And so there's a back and forth, but don't ignore the command. Don't ignore the if statement. We need absolutes in our lives. We need challenges. We need to be encouraged to keep the word of God. I hope this week you were able to take a fresh look at the if-then statements that are in 1 John 1 and 2. It's a complicated story when you deal with obedience as it relates to grace. So while I don't have all the answers, I think it's definitely worth your while this week to examine the if-then statements and reflect on how obedience and grace both work together as you work through the New Testament this week and love this book.